You finally say it out loud, not dramatically, not to seek attention, just quietly, carefully. You talk about the loneliness that never really left, the years of feeling unseen, the weight you've been carrying since childhood, and the response you get isn't empathy. It's a sigh, a shrug. You think too much. Everyone has problems. You're being overly sensitive. In that moment, something inside you closes. Not loudly, not angrily, just permanently. INFJs often enter life with a naive assumption. If they are sincere enough, logical enough, and humane enough, people will listen. That assumption doesn't come from arrogance. It comes from hope, from a deeply internal belief that truth, when expressed carefully and compassionately, should naturally be met with understanding. INFJs grow up believing that if they choose the right words, the right tone, the right moment, then connection will happen. That being honest, but gentle, will be enough. For a while, this belief survives. It survives childhood misunderstandings. It survives being the quiet one. It survives being told you're mature for your age, wise beyond your years, an old soul. INFJs take these comments as encouragement, as proof that depth has a place in the world. Until the first real rupture, it usually happens in a moment of vulnerability, not with strangers, but with someone close, a friend, a sibling, a partner, someone who feels safe enough to finally let the guard down. The INFJ doesn't open up casually. They never do. When they speak, it's already been processed, filtered, softened. This isn't raw emotion spilling out. This is emotion that has been examined, organized, and offered carefully, almost politely. And then it gets dismissed, not attacked, not argued against, just minimized. Why are you making it so deep? You're too emotional. You need to toughen up. Stop living in the past. To the person saying it, these are throwaway lines. To the INFJ, they land like a verdict, because what's being rejected isn't just a feeling, it's an entire inner world. INFJs don't experience emotions as isolated events. They experience them as context, as patterns that stretch across time. A sadness today isn't just about today. It connects to other moments, other losses, other silences. When an INFJ talks about pain, they're not dramatizing the present. They're describing a system, and systems make people uncomfortable. Most people are taught to deal with emotions by reducing them. Label it, contain it, move on. INFJs do the opposite. They expand emotions. They ask where it came from, what it means, what it reveals about human nature, about relationships, about morality. To someone who just wants things to be normal, this feels excessive, heavy, inconvenient. So the INFJ starts to notice a pattern. Every time they speak honestly, the room gets colder. Every time they express depth, the other person gets defensive, bored, or irritated. Not because the INFJ is wrong, but because depth demands presence, and presence is rare. This is where the shift begins. At first, the INFJ tries to explain better. They clarify, they rephrase, they soften their language even more. They say, maybe I didn't explain it well, even when they did. They take responsibility for the misunderstanding, even when the listener simply didn't want to go there. But after enough failed attempts, a different conclusion forms. Maybe the problem isn't how I'm saying it. Maybe the problem is that I'm saying it. This is the moment hiding begins. Not as deception, as protection. INFJs don't decide, I will never share again. That would be too dramatic, too conscious. Instead, something quieter happens. An internal calculation starts running in the background. Every interaction is filtered through new questions. Is this person capable of emotional nuance? Do they listen to understand or just to respond? Will my honesty be treated with care or with judgment? If the answer isn't a clear yes, the INFJ stays silent. From the outside, it looks like emotional distance, calm, composure, strength. Even people say, you're so stable, or you're hard to read, or nothing really bothers you, huh? They don't see the truth. The truth is that the INFJ is still feeling everything, just alone. They've learned that not everyone deserves access to their inner life. That vulnerability, offered to the wrong person, doesn't create intimacy. It creates exposure, and exposure, without understanding, feels like being emotionally naked in a hostile room. So they adapt. They become warm but vague, kind but contained, thoughtful but selective. They share opinions, but not convictions, feelings, but not the roots of those feelings. They show concern for others while slowly disappearing from their own emotional narrative. This is the great INFJ paradox. They crave deep connection more than most, yet they become experts at emotional self-erasure, not because they lack courage, but because they've learned the cost of misplaced honesty. And once an INFJ learns that lesson, it doesn't go away easily. The irony is that INFJs are often told they are too sensitive, when in reality, they are simply more aware. They notice emotional undercurrents others ignore. They pick up on inconsistencies between words and actions. They sense when something is off, even when everyone else is pretending it's fine. This awareness doesn't switch off just because it makes life harder. It's always running. So when people say, "Why can't you just let it go?" what they're really asking is, why can't you stop seeing what you see? For an INFJ, emotions don't disappear just because they're inconvenient. Unprocessed feelings don't fade with time. They accumulate. They settle into the body, into memory, into identity. Letting go without understanding feels like lying to yourself, and INFJs have a deep resistance to internal dishonesty. That's why advice that works for others feels almost insulting to them. Move on. Don't think about it. It's not that deep. To the INFJ, it is that deep. It was always that deep. The depth existed long before the words were spoken. What hurts isn't being emotional. What hurts is being told that your way of processing reality is wrong. Over time, INFJs begin to associate openness with punishment. Not dramatic punishment, subtle punishment, eye rolls, change tone, emotional withdrawal, being talked to like a child, being made to feel excessive, unstable, unrealistic. This is especially damaging because INFJs don't open up often. When they do, it's usually after long internal deliberation. They've already asked themselves, is this valid? Am I being fair? Am I projecting? By the time they speak, they're not seeking validation, they're seeking connection. And when that connection fails, the damage goes deep. Eventually, the INFJ learns to split themselves. There's the version of them that exists in public, functional, agreeable, thoughtful, composed. This version knows how to smile at the right moments, how to listen without oversharing, how to offer support without asking for it in return. This version is socially fluent. Then there's the private self, the one that thinks in spirals and systems, the one that revisits old conversations at night, the one that feels moral tension when something is unjust, even if no one else seems bothered, the one that asks questions that don't have easy answers. This private self becomes guarded territory, not because the INFJ thinks they're superior, but because they've learned that complexity is often punished, not welcomed, that asking why too many times makes people uncomfortable, that challenging emotional norms, even gently, can get you labeled as negative, intense, or difficult. So the INFJ chooses invisibility. They stop correcting people, stop explaining their inner logic, stop sharing the full emotional story. They let others believe a simpler version of them because it's safer, smoother, more acceptable. And here's the part most people don't understand. This hiding isn't passive, it's active. It takes effort, constant monitoring, emotional editing. INFJs are always asking themselves, how much of this is too much? Which part of me can I show here? What will this person do with what I give them? That kind of self-surveillance is exhausting, but it feels less exhausting than being misunderstood. There's also a deeper layer to this survival strategy, one that has nothing to do with emotions alone. INFJ emotions are inseparable from their values. When they feel strongly, it's often because something violates their internal sense of right and wrong. Hypocrisy, cruelty masked as realism, traditions upheld without reflection, systems that reward harm while calling it normal. When an INFJ expresses pain, they're often pointing at something bigger than themselves, a pattern, a flaw in how people treat each other, a quiet injustice everyone else has accepted. That's dangerous territory, because once you question emotional norms, you start questioning social ones, and people who live comfortably within the status quo don't appreciate that. They don't hear, "This hurts me." They hear, "Your way of living might be flawed." So the INFJ learns another lesson. Honesty doesn't just risk emotional invalidation, it risks social isolation. Being different emotionally is one thing. Being different ethically, philosophically, existentially, that's another. INFJs often find themselves holding positions that don't fit neatly into mainstream thinking. They don't reject tradition for rebellion's sake. They reject it because it doesn't align with their internal moral logic, and moral independence is threatening. So the INFJ becomes careful, not just with feelings, but with thoughts, with questions, with conclusions. They learn that it's easier to be liked when you're predictable, easier to belong when you don't push too hard against invisible boundaries. But belonging, for an INFJ, has always been complicated. They don't want surface acceptance. They want to be known, and yet the very things that would make them known are the things that get dismissed, mocked, or minimized. This creates a quiet, chronic loneliness. INFJs are often surrounded by people, yet feel fundamentally unseen. They participate in conversations while withholding the parts of themselves that matter most. They become reliable listeners, trusted advisors, emotional anchors for others, while rarely feeling anchored themselves. And when they do feel overwhelmed, they don't reach out easily, because the memory of dismissal is long. They remember how it felt to finally speak, only to be told they were too much. They remember shrinking themselves mid-sentence. They remember the shame of thinking, "I should have known better." So instead of opening up again, they internalize, they journal, they analyze, they retreat into their inner world, where at least the logic is consistent and the feelings make sense. This is how hiding becomes habitual. Not a wall, but a filter. Not a refusal to connect, but a refusal to be wounded unnecessarily. And from the outside, it still looks like calm, but inside, something else is happening. Inside that calm, there is constant movement. INFJs are always processing, always integrating new information into an already complex internal framework. Every interaction leaves a trace. Every emotional exchange gets filed away, compared, examined. This is why silence doesn't mean emptiness for an INFJ. Silence means work. When they stop speaking, it's not because there's nothing to say. It's because they're deciding whether saying it is worth the cost. Over time, this cost-benefit analysis becomes automatic. The INFJ can sense, within seconds, how much of themselves a situation can tolerate. Some environments can handle depth, most can't. So the INFJ adapts to the emotional bandwidth of the room. This is where people get it wrong. They think INFJs are private by nature, introverted, reserved, mysterious, but that's a surface-level interpretation. INFJs aren't hiding because they want to be hidden. They're hiding because experience taught them visibility is dangerous, especially emotional visibility. There's a specific kind of pain that comes from being emotionally articulate in an emotionally illiterate environment. INFJs often have the words for what they feel. They can describe loneliness, grief, or alienation with clarity and nuance, but instead of being met with curiosity, they're often met with discomfort, and discomfort quickly turns into defense. People dismiss what they don't want to face. They minimize what they don't want to feel. So when an INFJ names something real, something raw, it disrupts the emotional equilibrium. And the easiest way to restore that equilibrium is to invalidate the messenger. Relax. You're reading too much into it. Why do you always make things so heavy? These responses aren't about the INFJ. They're about the listener's limits. But INFJs internalize them anyway. They start to wonder if their depth is a flaw, if their intensity is pathological, if their inability to accept shallow explanations means something is wrong with them. This self-doubt is corrosive because INFJs are already self-reflective to a fault. They question their motives, their biases, their interpretations. They don't trust their feelings blindly. They interrogate them. So when the outside world reinforces the idea that their inner life is excessive, it confirms their worst fear, that they are fundamentally misaligned with the world they live in. At this point, hiding is no longer just about avoiding conflict. It becomes about identity preservation. If the INFJ keeps exposing their inner world to people who don't know how to handle it, they risk losing trust in themselves, so they protect that trust by limiting access. This is why INFJs can appear emotionally self-sufficient. They aren't. They just learn to survive without external validation. They become their own witnesses, their own therapists, their own moral compass. They build an internal sanctuary where their thoughts and feelings are taken seriously, even if no one else takes them seriously. But self-containment has a cost. Humans aren't meant to process everything alone. Even INFJs, with their rich inner worlds, need to be seen. They need resonance. They need someone to say, "I get it," without trying to fix, minimize, or reframe it into something more comfortable. Without that, the INFJ's inner world can start to feel like a closed loop. Their thoughts circle, emotions deepen, questions multiply, and because they don't share them outwardly, there's no external reality check, no grounding, just endless refinement. This can lead to emotional exhaustion. INFJs may feel tired without knowing why, heavy without an obvious cause. They might lose motivation, not because they don't care, but because caring has nowhere to go. When emotional energy isn't expressed or mirrored, it stagnates. Yet even then, they hesitate to speak, because opening up again means risking the same old wounds. And here's the tragedy. When INFJs do finally reach a breaking point, people are often surprised. "You never said anything. You always seemed fine. Why didn't you ask for help?" But INFJs did say something. Once, maybe twice, a long time ago. And they remember exactly how that went, so they learn to manage alone. There's also a misconception that INFJs hide their emotions to manipulate others, or to appear superior, or to maintain control. This couldn't be further from the truth. Hiding is not about power. It's about safety. It's about avoiding the slow erosion that comes from being repeatedly misunderstood. It's about not handing fragile parts of yourself to people who treat them carelessly. And it's about conserving energy in a world that constantly demands performance, positivity, and simplicity. INFJs feel deeply in a culture that prefers speed over depth. They ask why in a culture that prefers just because. They sit with discomfort in a culture that numbs it. So they become quiet, not because they have nothing to say, but because they're tired of explaining things that others don't want to understand. And somewhere along the way, hiding stops feeling like a loss. It starts to feel like intelligence, like discernment, like knowing that not every truth needs to be spoken, and not every listener deserves access to your inner world. This is the part most people miss. INFJs don't hide because they're afraid of being seen. They hide because they remember what happened when they were, and memory is a powerful teacher. Yet, despite all of this, something inside the INFJ never fully gives up on connection. It just becomes more careful about where it looks. That carefulness is the last thing to disappear. Even after disappointment, even after withdrawal, even after years of emotional self-containment, INFJs still hope, quietly, that somewhere, someone exists who can meet them without shrinking them. Not someone perfect, just someone present. This is why INFJs don't actually close their hearts. They narrow the doorway. They stop broadcasting and start waiting. Waiting for signals, for tone, for patience, for the rare kind of listener who doesn't rush to conclusions or solutions. Someone who can sit with ambiguity. Someone who doesn't panic when emotions get heavy or uncomfortable. When INFJs sense that kind of safety, something shifts. They don't explode emotionally. They don't suddenly overshare. They unfold, slowly, carefully, layer by layer. And when they do, it's not chaotic. It's coherent. Years of internal processing come together in words that are measured, precise, and deeply human. This is why people who truly know an INFJ often say, "I had no idea you felt this deeply." Of course you didn't. Depth isn't visible to people who don't make space for it. When INFJs open up in the right environment, they're not too much. They're grounding, clarifying, insightful. Their emotions don't drown the room. They give it meaning. They articulate things others have felt but never named. They bring shape to the formless. And this is the cruel irony. The same emotional depth that gets INFJs dismissed in shallow environments is exactly what makes them invaluable in deep ones. But those environments are rare, so most INFJs live with a split reality. They function well on the surface while carrying a vast inner landscape that few ever see. They learn to be low maintenance, self-regulating, and emotionally economical. They don't ask for much because asking has historically cost them too much. This leads to another quiet pattern. INFJs often become the emotional containers for others. People sense their calm, their non-judgmental presence, their ability to listen without interrupting. So they confide in them, vent to them, unload their fears and frustrations, and INFJs hold it, carefully, compassionately, but the exchange is rarely equal. INFJs give understanding more often than they receive it. They absorb others' emotions while rationing their own expression. Over time, this imbalance can create a subtle resentment, not toward others, but toward themselves. Why am I always the one listening? Why does no one ask how I'm really doing? And yet, when someone does ask, the INFJ hesitates, because answering honestly would mean opening the door again, and they're not sure the person asking is prepared for what's inside. So they say, "I'm fine," not as a lie, as a boundary. This is the survival strategy most people never see. INFJs don't armor themselves with indifference. They armor themselves with selectivity. They become precise about where they invest emotional energy. They stop trying to be understood by everyone and start conserving themselves for the few who might actually listen. That selectivity can look like detachment, or aloofness, or emotional distance, but it's actually a form of self-respect that was earned through pain. INFJs learned the hard way that being open with the wrong people doesn't lead to growth. It leads to erosion. So they choose erosion avoidance. And yes, this comes with loss. They lose spontaneity, ease, the ability to express feelings in the moment. They might struggle to ask for help even when they need it. They might feel isolated even in relationships. Hiding, after all, isn't free. But for many INFJs, the alternative felt worse. Being constantly misunderstood, being talked down to, being told that your inner life is a problem to be fixed rather than a reality to be honored. That kind of experience doesn't make you braver. It makes you quieter. And quiet, for an INFJ, is not emptiness. It's memory. It's discernment. It's a long internal record of what happened the last time they trusted too easily. So if you ever wonder why an INFJ seems hard to read, emotionally distant, or selectively open, don't assume disinterest. Don't assume coldness. Assume history. Assume they once believed, deeply, that sincerity would be enough, and that the world taught them otherwise. What remains now is not fear, but wisdom, a careful, hard-earned understanding that emotional truth is precious, and not everyone knows how to hold it.